My name is Peter H., and I'm joined once again by my co-host from Omaha, Nebraska, Stevie J.
Good evening, everybody, or good morning, or good afternoon, whatever time you're listening to our podcast. Thanks for joining us once again on Glove Up or Shut Up. And we have a very newsworthy week. We just got through Bellator 141. We've got UFC 191 coming up this weekend, so lots of things going on.
We're not going to talk about Miley Cyrus, are we?
No, we are not. I did not watch the VMAs. Did you?
I only heard the good parts and the bad parts, and, whatever. She showed her boob, big deal.
Yeah, I don't think there are any good parts to the VMAs anymore. It's like I told somebody on Facebook. I think it was our friend Matt Cleary. He said, I asked the question, when did the VMAs stop being about music? And I responded, I asked the question, when did MTV stop being about music? And I asked that 10 years ago.
MTV Music Television, right?
No.
Isn't that what it is?
Not anymore. It hasn't been for a long time. It stopped being music television about the time I got out of college.
We're dating ourselves, my friend. We're dating ourselves right there.
Yeah, I was dating myself at the pool today by talking about the Brady Bunch. But anyway, let's talk about something younger than that. Let's talk about mixed martial arts. Did you watch the Bellator show?
I caught bits and pieces, and I remember Newton. It wasn't the main event. It wasn't the fight. How do I say this? It wasn't a typical performance. Something was off, and it was hard to figure out what it was. Like, you watch so many fights, you have an idea of something's off on this fighter. There's an injury here or something there, and it didn't quite flow like a normal fight here.
Yeah, and then you saw the picture of Melvin Gillard's hand after the fight, and you figured out what it was.
Yeah, Gillard's hand was swollen up like 3 times the size, and it reminded me of one of the Newton fights I saw recently where he wasn't the same fighter, and that's exactly what I saw here with Gillard. It was like, something is not right here. Like, I'm not saying he's hurt, but he's not his 100% self. I mean, obviously he was hurt, but he did a good job hiding it, but there's something was getting off on that fight.
No, and I think he didn't expect how strong Brandon Gertz was going to be because when he would hit him and then shoot him for those takedowns, he was picking Melvin Gillard up and throwing him. These weren't just takedowns. These were like old school Quentin Rampage Jackson, I'm going to hurl you takedowns. He was throwing this dude around.
And it was like, this is a hand-picked opponent? Really? Good job, buddy.
Yeah, those words came back to bite him in a big way, but you know what? He'll learn from this mistake, or at least I'm hopeful he will, because if I'm Melvin Gillard, I don't want to come into Bellator on a hype train and go out like that. I would want to come back and do better. Now,
are we thinking he's out 3 months, 4 months? Hand surgery was the day after the fight.
I wouldn't even set a timetable on it the way his hand looked. I mean, it depends on which bones. There's 27 bones in the hand, as somebody pointed out to me on MMA Mania. So, you know what? We don't even know which one of those bones in his hand was broken, but you can't, I mean, if it's like metacarpals, if it's multiple ones, he could be out a long time. Because each one of those would have
one of them I thought said it was shattered, and I'm like, if a hand is shattered, there's no way he's fighting in the rest of the year.
Yeah. Well, either way, they set the brakes, but he was still going to have surgery, so that alone tells me he's going to be on the shelf for a while.
Another MMA fighter hurt. Here we go again.
Yeah. Well, the only thing that hurt me in the rest of the fights was the lack of finishes, because the only other fight on the main card that actually had a decisive win, and Gertz was decisive, mind you, even though it went the distance. At least it was pretty clear. But the other fights, Justin Wren looked like he should have finished Josh Burns and didn't. And I'm going to just attribute that to ring rust or to Josh Burns just being too literally hard-headed to fall down, one or the other. And
he wasn't punch drunk, but he was close to it.
Oh, yeah, especially in that second round when Wren started unloading with knees. You could tell he was having a bad day, because at the end of that second round, his face was completely destroyed, and the doctor was looking at Josh Burns in the third round like, he can't see out of one eye. No, he can. No, he can't. No, he can. No, he can't. They were arguing about it, and they finally decided to let him continue the fight, but it could have been stopped.
Again, I can't remember.
I have no idea at this point. That was days ago, so.
Don't say it's not the guy. Don't say it's not the guy.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't Mazzagatti. It was probably Jason Herzog. He seems to ref most Bellator fights, but I don't care. That's inconsequential to the point that that was a 10-8 round, and 2 of the 3 judges who scored it agreed. So, Ren wins handily, but he doesn't get a finish. And Gertz won handily, but he didn't get a finish. And Patricky Frary won handily, but he didn't get a finish. Although, with the judges on that one, I don't agree with it being unanimous. I actually thought that Sadawad won at least 1, if not 2 of those rounds.
Debatable. It wasn't a clear cut. It was like we always say on the show, never to the judges. You don't want to leave any round to the judges. And depending on how burnt out the judges are at that point, they might just, okay, whatever. Like, they might just check that box 10-9. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you don't leave any round to the judges. But I want to go back to that point just for a second when it comes to the referee. The referee is there for fighter safety. Right. If he doesn't recognize the 10-8 round, the fighter is basically getting his ass kicked, and referee isn't stopping it, lets the fight continue. That 3rd round, man, like, he must have been watching like a hawk. Okay, one little thing, I'm stopping this fight. Like, he probably said it to each corner, like, to the corner, like, if he's like that last round, I will stop that fight.
I think the only reason that fight wasn't going to be stopped in the 3rd round is those guys are both big heavyweights, and they were both pretty tired, so they weren't coming at each other with full force in that 3rd round.
Yeah, well, it wasn't the high altitude of Denver.
Yeah, that's true. At least this was in Texas. It wasn't an elevation show. But anyway, speaking of elevation, Marlos Kunin and Arlene Blenko got elevated to the main card because Lorenzo Hood messed up his knee warming up for the fight. So the heavyweight fight between Hood and Butler got scratched.
He's so good. It's show money, basically.
Sorry, Peter, you broke up completely there. I didn't hear what you said.
I said, did Hood's opponent get his show money at least?
I don't know. I've never heard any report on who got paid what for that. In fact, the only number I have of any kind is that the total gate for the card was $89,549.
That's it?
Well, I guess Pechanga Resort and Casino probably got a paid show out of it, so they probably don't even care about the gate.
Damn. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of a random injury that happened, tweaking the knee just in, I guess, warm-ups, but, you guys are bad for the guy, too.
Yeah, it's a bad timing thing, but it turned out to be a good thing for Kunin because you were complaining that how does a veteran like this end up on the preliminary card? And lo and behold, she didn't. She ended up on the main card and got the only decisive win. She just took Arlene Blenko down over and over again and kept working and working for submissions until she finally caught an armbar in the 2nd round. So Marlos Kunin, hooray, props to her. Mm-hmm. Just hooray for her getting the job done.
She won by armbar. What a surprise.
Yeah, Marlos Kunin wins by submission. Stop the presses.
It's like saying, oh, look, Floyd Mayweather wins by decision.
Hey,
you know what's going to happen.
Remember I told you about that fighter I interviewed who kicked the bottle and said now he wanted to kick Emiliano Sordi in the leg?
Yeah.
Well, this was a very strange fight because it was a competitive fight in the 1st round, and possibly A.J. Matthews was getting the better of it. It was close, but I would have scored it for him going into the 2nd. But we didn't go to the 2nd round because in between rounds, Emiliano Sordi apparently told his corner he was nauseous and felt numb in one arm. So the fight was the fight was stopped.
That's not good.
Yeah. Officially it goes down as a TKO by retirement.
Yeah, I almost said weak, but it's not weak. It's an interesting finish to a fight. It's rare we see a retirement on a stool like that, but if he is not in any condition to fight, throw in the towel. Don't put yourself at risk.
Well, that was the weird thing. Nobody actually threw in a towel. Nobody actually called over the doctor. We just saw one shot of Emiliano Sordi waving his hands like, I don't want it anymore. But we couldn't tell if that was just because he was happy that the round was over or because he wanted to get out of that fight. And it turned out he wanted to get out of that fight.
Do you think he'll fight again in Baltimore?
I think he will probably be back. I'm sure he didn't want to quit the fight. He had to for whatever medical reasons he was having. And once they figure out what was wrong and get that cleared up, I'm sure Bellator will have him back.
Could be a weight cut issue.
Yeah, well, it was a middleweight fight, so presumably it shouldn't be too hard of a cut for him. But then again, we saw that with Rumble Johnson. That's a name I've used a couple of times this week. In fact, we're going to be talking about him when we talk about UFC 191, because there's a little bit of news about that.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's nothing that's going to change the card. Go ahead.
Can I ask you a question, though?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are the ID rules in place just for UFC? Bellator, are they adopting the same rules for their fighters?
As far as I understand it, and I'm going to give you my understanding and not verbatim fact, this is a policy that UFC is following because it's directed by WADA, which does the Olympic testing, because they don't allow Olympic athletes to do this. So I'm assuming if other states have reciprocity, as they have in the past, and they do their testing the way that Nevada does their testing with UFC fighters, then it's probably going to be uniform. But I wouldn't guarantee it. I would still say there's a chance that some organizations might allow their fighters to rehydrate. But I think usually when the industry leader takes a stance on something, other people follow suit. And we both agree that UFC is the industry leader on this.
Oh, yeah. No, it's UFC and everybody else fighting for second and third, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, speaking of fighting for second and third, we got some news about that as well. But before we move on, I want to ask if there was anything else on this card you wanted to discuss.
No, that main event was the one key point with the broken hand. If you haven't seen the picture, folks, go on for MMA. I'm sure the picture's everywhere by now, but his hand looks like a balloon.
Yeah, it's
like a balloon with 4 fingers and a thumb. Yeah. Yeah,
it was. I had to come up with a headline for the picture, and the only thing I could say was, look at Melvin Gillard's gruesome hand. And they pretty much used my title. They reworded it a little, and it was like Melvin Gillard's gruesome broken hand, pictures, enclosed, whatever they changed it to. But it was pretty close to verbatim what I wrote. Gruesome described it well.
You won't be bowling anytime soon.
No. But we will go bowling with UFC 191 because people are going to knock each other down and not pins. And they're going to be bouncing around like bowling balls hitting pins when it comes to the main event. Demetrius Johnson and John Dodson, because them flyweights move fast.
Yeah, you're blinking to half the punches.
Yes, and I know firsthand because I saw the last fight these guys had in Chicago. I was there covering it.
Well, I saw that live on pay-per-view. I didn't see it live in person.
No, it wasn't on pay-per-view. It was a UFC on Fox.
Fox. Right. That was the Fox show. So many shows. It's hard to keep track sometimes. What's on pay-per-view, what's on TV.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good to see these guys in the main event again on the pay-per-view this time. So there is that. And do you think the casual fan will buy this show?
Well, that's why we have to talk about Anthony Johnson, because they've loaded up the card underneath with people that you would recognize or have heard about or like. They've got Arlovsky and Frank Mir in a heavyweight tilt. They've got Rumble Johnson and Jimmy Manawa in a light heavyweight bout. They've got Paige Van Sant and Alex Chambers in a strawweight bout. They've basically stacked up the card underneath Johnson and Dodson to say, hey, if you're not into the flyweights, you should still buy this anyway, because we'll give you something you like.
Scary to say, but Arlovsky and Mir in 2015 is still pay-per-view buys.
What's even scarier is that if Arlovsky wins, that could put him right up at the top of the contenders list.
Oh man, I knew you were going to say that. I think what you do if Arlovsky wins that fight, he would face, I'm trying to think if the JDS Overeem fight is number one contenders fight or not. I don't know.
Well, you've only got three choices. You've got three choices above Arlovsky. It's either Kane, JDS, or Miocic.
Yeah, Miocic too. Shoot, there's another strong fighter. I don't think Arlovsky gets a title shot with a win, but I think that a win here decisively over a guy like Frank Mir puts him in the conversation for a number one contenders fight. Who that number one contender fight would be against. Oof, New York Chick JDS Health over beats JDS badly. You could even make an argument for him.
That's true. I guess I would say what I would expect with an Arlovsky win would be that he's the reserve bout, if you know what I mean by that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
He could always step in.
I find it funny. You win the thing. You're the number one contender. Congratulations. You're fighting King Velasquez for who show for doing. Good luck to you.
Well, it could be worse. You know what? You could be the number one contender at bantamweight and then not even get a title shot.
Or down 6 months from now, it's like, okay, you're the number 3 light heavyweight in the world. You're going to fight a returning John Jones. Have fun with that. What?
Well, indeed. But we didn't make a prediction on Dodson and Johnson, so I'm going to go ahead and say Demetrius Johnson retains the title because as hard as John Dodson hits, and he's probably one of the hardest hitting flyweights in the entire division, that speed factor for Johnson, it worked to his advantage the first time, and I don't see that these two guys have changed that much since the last fight.
I like Dodson as a fighter. I mean, he's got a great attitude. He's got a hell of a skill set, but DJ is DJ, and I don't think DJ loses this fight. I think DJ wins. I'm even going to say second round, finishes the fight.
Well, it would be nice to see him finish a fight other than in the 5th round, wouldn't it?
I know. That's why I said it.
Well, we shall see, but you know what they say, anything can happen in a fight, and if Dodson landed one perfect punch, because we have seen him knock Johnson down before, he wasn't able to finish him, but we know he can drop him, so just don't count anything out with John Dodson. I'm not saying that Johnson's going to lose, I'm picking him to win too, but as the betting parlance goes, I would call Dodson a live dog in this fight.
Absolutely. And, champions can get caught, just ask Anderson Silva.
Absolutely. Now, I did say we had something to talk about with Rumble Johnson later, and there is going to be a protest at the MGM Grand Garden Arena on Saturday.
Oh, no.
Yes, there are some people who are really upset that Rumble Johnson has apparently gotten off the hook a couple of times for, what shall we say?
Indiscretions?
Indiscretions, yeah. That might be a polite way to put it. And they want him called on the carpet, and they want UFC to punish him, and they don't think enough has been done. So there's going to be picket signs and protesters.
Is this because of the yoga thing?
It's because of many things.
Fair enough.
But all I know is
going to, what was it, anger management? I'm like, great, you want to do that anger management class with Rumble Johnson? Can I switch classes? Please. He scares me.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't want to go to anger management with anybody that's in UFC. Like, if you got a problem and you're a professional fighter, you know what? You go do your own thing in your own class.
Yeah, no, when it comes to Rumble Johnson, I mean, there's a history there, there's a precedent there, really. And I understand the protests, but I mean, you're going to protest outside of an arena in Vegas. Don't think anyone's going to care.
No, they're not going to stop anybody from attending the fight. That, especially when you pay UFC ticket prices in Las Vegas, you're paying like $400,000 or $500,000. Even the nosebleed seats are like $100 to $250. So you're not turning anybody away that paid that kind of money for a ticket. No.
And it's going to be a shame because I can see where the protesters are coming from, but I just...
No pun intended. No pun intended, Peter, but they really need to pick their fight.
Oh, wow. Oh. Good one.
Yeah, there's a better time and place to make your protest than at the actual fights itself. They could do it in a more constructive way.
Why don't you just have a press conference next to the weigh-ins?
That would work, or you could show up at the athletic commission hearing and register a formal complaint there. That would be more effective.
Oh yeah, make those hearings more entertaining. Good job.
Well, anyway, we do have some other fights to talk about on this card, so let me get your pick between Johnson and Manawa real quick.
I think Johnson's going to want to make a statement after his last fight, and Manawa, it's going to be a really tough task for him to be a pissed off Johnson. I'm going to go with Johnson on this one.
I like Jimmy Manuwa a lot, but he's in over his head on this one. A win over Jan Blachowicz does not give you the preparation you need to face the hard-hitting power of Rumble Johnson.
Yeah, he might get knocked out if he's not careful.
And we've seen what a guy at Rumble Johnson's caliber can do to Manuwa because we saw Alexander Gustafsson knock him out with knees and punches. So, you know, when you're getting to that upper echelon of the light heavyweight division, the guys like Gustafsson, Cormier, Jones, and Rumble Johnson, those guys are going to be in the mix with each other for a while, and anybody else who tries to get in that mix is probably going to have a bad night.
Later on line one.
Indeed. So, speaking of Jan Blachowicz, he is also on this card. He's fighting Corey Anderson. What are your thoughts on that one, Peter?
Corey Anderson, really?
Yep, Corey Anderson is on this card.
Interesting. Is Anderson the underdog? I might lean towards him just maybe as an upset. I don't know.
You feel like that fight he had
matchup.
You feel that Gian Vellante fight he had was kind of a fluke then? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe. I mean, it's a small sample size. Like, this next fight will definitely prove if that was a fluke or not.
All right. Well, since you asked what the odds are, let me just run down the lines for the cards we've already talked about. Demetrius Johnson is minus 550 against Dodson. That seems too big of a favorite for me. That's why
I could see 550.
Yeah, but that plus 425 on Dodson, man. If I was a betting man, that would be tempting. And
tempting, that's for sure.
And there's a very close line on the heavyweight fight. Arlovsky is minus 155. Mir is plus 135.
Sure.
Johnson is a very heavy favorite, minus 650. Manuwa is plus 475.
Doesn't surprise me.
Blachowicz is a small favorite at minus 150. Anderson is plus 130. So you might be onto something with that one.
Slight upset. I mean, if he wins that one, I wonder who you put in front of him next. Like, that would really be interesting if he gets 2 wins. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the matchmaker, I don't envy his job. It's particularly necessary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the thing is, with that win, Corey Anderson would beat a top 15 guy, but by the same token, I don't think that makes him a top 15 guy because, you
said in the past you'd be a top 15 guy. You're in the top 15.
Normally I do say that, but considering his last loss was to Gian Vellante, who is also a top 15 guy, that's where I'm going to draw my line in the sand and say there's not consistency there because if you win to a top 15 guy and you lose to a top 15 guy, it's kind of a wash.
As I said, his next fight. Okay, so who's 15 right now?
Who is number 15 right now at light heavyweight? That would be Ilir Latifi.
Ooh, that'd be a good fight for him.
Yeah, you know what? If he beats Blachowicz and he beats somebody else that's around that range, like Maldonado or Latifi, you give him 2 wins in a row, and then I'd say he's a top 15 guy. But we're projecting way far ahead for Corey Anderson. We don't know any of that's going to happen.
Tough test ahead for sure.
Yeah, but
we didn't get your pick for Arlovsky and Mir.
You didn't hear my pick for Arlovsky and Mir?
No.
I'm pretty sure I said I've got Arlovsky in that.
See, I'm going to go with Mir just on a win. Nothing more, nothing less. I just have a funny feeling that Mir is going on top on that one.
All right. Well, for the same reason, I'm going with Blachowicz in the fight with Anderson. I agree the line's close enough to risk it on Anderson, but I'm not going to.
All right, what's next?
That would be Paige Van Zandt and Alex Chambers. And get this, you're going to whistle when I tell you this line.
Uh-oh.
Paige Van Zandt is a minus 1,450.
Say 1,000 what?
I really expected you to do a whistle when I said that. There we go. Yeah.
What is it?
It's plus 950 for Chambers.
And minus what?
Minus 1,450. You know what? I'm serious when I say this. I'm not even kidding right now. If you're in Vegas and you got $20, put it on Alex Chambers, because if that pays off, you're going to be a happy, happy man.
if you put more than $100 on a plus 950 in that fight, you've got problems. But $20 I could see.
Yeah. I don't know what the lowest amount is you can bet at the casino because I've never actually placed a bet on a fight, but man, if you could put $5 on it, I'd do it. Just, you never know with plus 950. That's like a racehorse called Old Glue Factory coming in first. That's what they're basically telling you.
Also, you never know, you might have a retirement on a stool, or what do you see in that fight where we, torn esophagus, like, you don't know.
You never know. You just never know. She could break her foot and the fight could be waved off and Alex Chambers wins. You never know.
But then again, Paige Van Zandt is Paige Van Zandt. I mean, jeez.
Yeah, and Paige Van
really
Zandt
good.
is good, but is she minus 1,450 good? That's what we're trying to figure out here.
Okay, so if you're obviously going to go with Van Zandt, do you think it's a first round victory?
That's not necessarily clear from her last 3 fights because
No, it's not.
she's got a rear naked choke, a TKO, and a unanimous decision. So we've seen everything under the sun, but we haven't seen a lot of first round finishes.
Be interesting to see what happens there, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. And Alex Chambers, we're talking about it like it's a fluke if she wins, but I mean, she has beaten some legitimate fighters. She beat Jody Escobel, who was at one point the number 6 atom weight in the world, and I just interviewed somebody who fought her. So, beating Jody Escobel is a legitimate win. It's a tough win, and she's fought some really good women too, like Alshing Daly and Mika Nagano and Mizuki Inoue. So, don't be looking past Alex Chambers here.
No.
So, as far as
the prelims is the main event.
The main event of the prelims is the one I was just about to talk to you about because it's Ross, the real deal Pearson versus Paul Felder.
Okay, that's a good fight there.
Yeah. So do you got the Irish Dragon in this one?
I got Felder.
Alright. Let's see what the odds say. Minus 440 for Felder, so you're making the right call according to the sports book.
And what's Pearson at?
Pearson is plus 350 on the comeback.
Jeez, okay.
Anything?
Wow, is there anything else on the prelims that catches your eye?
Well, they have been doing some profile pieces on Jessica Andrade versus Raquel Pennington, so I think they're hoping that one draws in a few casual fans. And the line right now is Andrade at minus 210 and Pennington at plus 175. And that's another one.
Reasonable.
That's another one where if I was a betting man, I'd put a little money on Pennington because I like her chances.
That's reasonable. I could agree with that. And, hopefully this fight's a short fight and they'll bonus it on the pay-per-view.
Could very well be. But you don't have to worry about it if it's not because it's on Fox Sports 1. So as long as you get some version of that in Canada, you'll be able to watch it.
I think that's TSN. Oh, someone quoted me on this the other day. TSN 5, I believe, or TSN 3, one of the two. It's TSN, they've got 5 different channels, rotating schedules and stuff, and I know the prelims, they're on the Fight Network now, so that's pretty cool to see, but yeah, TSN, is the TSN is the place to be for the prelims. I think Fight Network is the second phase of prelims. I think the post-fight, press conference as well.
Very cool. Well, Peter, we got about 10 minutes left to go before we got to wrap it up today, so I assume you want to talk about some of the news out there in the world of mixed martial arts.
Yeah, let's start with, heavyweight fighter Travis Brown.
Yep, he has been officially cleared by the internal investigation and is now fully reinstated to the UFC roster.
One thing that bugged me on the ruling, citing a lack of evidence. Did they not see the photos? I saw the photos. They're pretty damning.
Yeah, well, there's a difference
She
between...
didn't get those guys falling down the stairs.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but they're talking about what they can prove versus what you can see. And unfortunately, in a legal term, they are two different things.
But in the court of public opinion...
In the court of public opinion, he's still not innocent, but...
He's not number 5 anymore, is he?
Yeah, well...
No, I think he dropped, didn't
No, I'm looking at it right now since you said that, and he is still number 5.
he? There's a guy on the heavyweight list that's on the outside looking in. Now that he's reinstated, give him a 2-month fight camp. Hell, make it 3 months. Give him a top 5 guy. Give him I guess, a loser of a fight coming up, like an Overeem JDS loser or a Mir Arlovsky loser. You know what I mean? Like, give him a top guy. See what happens.
That's true. But I think we can say whatever his misdeeds are, allegedly or otherwise outside of the cage, he's still got a murderer's row of guys to go through inside the cage. So things don't get any easier for him just because he's cleared.
I do want to make a note. A lot of people called me out last week's show saying Travis Brown and his teammates with Ronda Rousey are in the same fight camp, so the dinner could be nothing.
I did try to tell you that.
We did, and I was. I think what really tipped me off was the death stare by Brown and the worried look by Rousey. Like it was something. Oh crap, we're caught. Like it was the image that. You know what I mean? Like if we were teammates, whatever, they don't care. But it just got the impression I got from that photo. And a lot of people got that impression too. But they are teammates, so.
Yeah, honestly, you take a random picture of somebody else and 2 fighters happen to be in the background, then you can get any look on their faces you want because people's faces change from moment to moment. I'm sure you could take a picture of me having a conversation with John Pollock and I could be completely happy and you could take it at one moment and you might think I was mad at him. It would just be the random changing of my face from moment to moment.
Fair enough. There was something about, it was, Ronda Rousey and Floyd Mayweather again in the news this week.
Yeah.
Ended up being on my level, and Ronda said, well, I broke down my fights and I'm by second and the highest paid UFC fighter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mayweather can't keep talking shit. He says things like, I would destroy any fighter in the UFC, I'm too good for them. He says shit like that. It's just him.
What's his weight again? Like 140, 150?
Oh boy, you're asking me boxing. We need Gigi for questions like that. There are so
Not
many.
Heavyweight, that's for sure.
Oh no, hell no. But there's a shit ton of weight classes in boxing.
Yeah, there is.
And he's fought in at least 5 weight classes. I'm looking at his page right now. He's been a super featherweight, a lightweight, a light welterweight, a welterweight, and a light middleweight. And before you go thinking middleweight means 185, not in boxing.
Yeah, no, not in boxing.
No, that means like 154 pounds. So that's like the maximum of his size.
So 155. I'll put him against Cerrone.
Well, I'd enjoy that, but as a friend of ours famously said, that's not going to happen.
No, but he's damn entertaining. Danny White be in the front row.
Oh, you know he would. But speaking of people who'll be sitting in the front row because they're not fighting anymore, Big Nog has officially retired from active competition.
Are you really surprised by that?
Not at all, but I am pleasantly surprised that they gave him an office job and made him an athlete talent coordinator for Brazil.
Smart move.
Yep. It basically amounts to he will be the person who bridges the gaps between UFC in America and UFC in Brazil. He'll be the liaison and he'll be the talent scout.
And one day he'll be a UFC Hall of Famer.
Oh, that's probably happening next year. You don't think it is? I bet you it will.
Mm-hmm. Now, there was also news of Chael Sonnen this week.
Yes, and he made a splash in a big way today when World Series of Fighting announced they had signed a deal with Chael Sonnen to be on their commentary team, and he will debut on September 18th at World Series of Fighting 23 in Phoenix, Arizona at the Comerica Theater when we get the epic rematch of Justin Gaethje and Luis Palomino.
I guess he's working at Global Force Wrestling with New York Badass Phil Baroni, and now he's doing now he's doing more commentary. Like, do you think he'll ever be back in UFC? I mean, he's doing other side projects, but
you know, he's keeping himself pretty busy these days. I think he knows that he's got too many issues between UFC and Fox to really get back in with them anytime soon, and As long as he's finding work and getting paid, I don't think he cares.
Now, do you think that, I don't know, with Leonard Morris, the announcing gigs, the wrestling announcer gigs, I don't know if I'll ever see him back in UFC, but do you ever think he'd want to fight again? Like, I know he's doing commentary these days, but do you think he'll ever step back in the octagon or a cage at all?
I think at this point that's probably not going to happen because of the fact that he clearly needed some hormone replacement is the nicest way I'll say it. And since the rules no longer allow it, I think he knows that his active fighting days are over.
That's a shame. Yeah, I think he's got trouble fighting him, but
he probably does, but it's not going to happen under the current allowed system. So I think we just have to take his career for what it was, and you measure it any way you choose to want to. But just like with Anderson Silva now, there are some question marks about some of his achievements.
Yeah. Speaking of more news, is there any Dana White blow-ups this week?
Let's see, other than the usual just getting mad at reporters, no, nothing special.
He get mad at a reporter? Oh, no, not again.
Yeah, it's like, when does he not? So, I don't remember anything specific that Dana White had a freak out about. I do remember him teasing that Fedor Emelianenko was signing with UFC, but it's a very, 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 very minor tease. All he did was post a wink on one of Fedor's Instagram pictures. That's it. Just a semicolon and a parentheses. He didn't say anything. He didn't say that Fedor was signed. He just winked on one of Fedor's posts. That's it.
You mean Dean's trolling the internet?
I kind of think so, because I think if there was really anything to say, he wouldn't just be winking on an Instagram update. I think he'd put out a full-bore press release, hold a press conference, trumpet it to the world with fanfare. He wouldn't be shy about it.
Now, Fedor will be at the Bellator Fan Fest coming up, though.
Yes, he will, and a bunch of people are going to be there. Kung Lee, Fedor, Hoist Gracie. They brought in pretty much every legend that's not currently with UFC to be at their show.
Randy Couture?
Yeah, he's going to be there as well.
Now, I do want to mention Bellator because the matchups for the semifinals have been announced for the Big Tentpole show.
Well, they did announce the combinations. It'll be Linton Vassell versus King Mo and Phil Davis versus Emmanuel Newton.
Now, I know the winners would advance to the finals, but do you think the losers of the bracket would fight down the road?
Well, no, actually, I don't think that's going to be really necessary because they've got a reserve bout lined up if somebody gets knocked out, so they don't need the losers for anything. They've got Francis Carmont and Philippe Lins in case any of these guys are unable to continue due to an injury.
Well, I'm not saying on that show, but down the road.
I mean, yeah, they'll still be in the mix as Bellator fighters, but they'll be out of the tournament, so they'll have to earn their way back up.
I think that's exactly how you would build that up. These guys lost their chance at the last show. Let's match them up and, hope for a war, you know what I mean? I mean, even the guys who lose the fight, those two guys, that matchup would be pretty explosive.
Yeah, I suppose so, but at the same time, the reserve bout kept the same effect too. You could say, oh, the guy that lost the reserve bout had a chance to enter into this tournament, so pair him off with one of the guys that didn't win in the tournament. You could do the same thing there.
Isn't it weird when I think of the reserve bouts, I think of the Strikeforce heavyweight tournament?
Well, that's not a coincidence considering Scott Coker is the president of Bellator right now. Nor is it a coincidence that Kung Lee is appearing at the Bellator show. You do the math.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think
hey, you want to sit at the table, sign some photos? Sure.
Yeah, exactly. They got a relationship. It's the same reason Josh Thompson is a Bellator fighter now. It's because he was already friendly with Coker before he came there.
I think he added more money.
Well, that too, but I'm just saying, Coker has cultivated good relationships with fighters over the years, so guys who know him like working for him.
All right, is there anything else on the news list today there, boss?
I think that's going to do it, Peter. Why don't you give us some cheap plugs and we'll wrap it up.
All right, I'm at Hardcore CDN. Stevie's at AngryMarks. YouTube channel is AngryMarks.com, all one word. And check out the shows on the network. We've got Impact Implosion, SmackDown Rundown, Raw Reaction, Undisputed Wrestling Show, and Over the Top Radio.
That's right. We got a plethora of content for you, so be sure to come back every single day. There's always something new. Same goes for the YouTube channel, where you can check out not just AngryMarks.com exclusives, but you can check out my work for MMA Mania there, because I interviewed fighters this week like Nick Rivera Kalinok. She's an awesome fighter. She's really funny. She's cool as hell. You'll want to listen to that. And from the World Series of Fighting light heavyweight tournament they're doing, Teddy Holder, who in just a couple weeks will be fighting David Branch for the inaugural title. So plenty of good stuff there that I'm doing for MMA Mania that you can check out. YouTube.com/AngryMarks.com.
There was a clip I just saw of I hate saying this, but the Razor Ramones? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, that's right. They were on the Undisputed Wrestling Show. Very good friends of Zane, Rick, and William Huckabee. So check out the Razor Ramones. Check out their page too at Facebook.com/the Razor Ramones.
First time I heard that out of the music, not the wrestler, I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. Well, speaking of music, I hear our music playing, so we gotta get out of here.
Alright, well, for DBJ, I'm Peter Rich, Hardcore Canadian. Thanks for listening. And that's all we can say. Never leave it to the judges. Good night, everybody.
See ya.